What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 730 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk Hot Tags of the Week. We are post-Thanksgiving. Hopefully, if you celebrated that, you are having those post-Thanksgiving, turkey hangover kind of moments going on in a good way. I'm Tony Mango, joined as always by Robert Felice.
How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing okay. I just had a turkey sandwich. And Kellen Wiggins.
Hello.
We are breaking down a couple different things on this episode that we would have normally gotten into on a post show in one fashion or another. But as I had said before, Full Gear was this past Saturday and I was otherwise predisposed. I did not, come into that with, the idea of watching that and also doing a post show while I was out of town at a high school reunion. Because that's impossible. I was not going to sit there on my phone while trying to talk to people and catch up and stuff. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. I didn't watch the show. So my whole review element of this is going to be based off of just results and not the show itself. But Rob and Callum, you guys can get deeper into that. We're going to talk about the Continental Classic. We're going to talk about Penta's injury in the Last Time Is Now tournament match. And a couple of other things here and there. Truth be told, I didn't really have anything planned for this episode before we got started, so I'm thinking that we're just kind of winging it, and that's perfectly fine. It's Black Friday, so pick up your merchandise. It's Black Friday sales and stuff going on right now, so if you want to get the Redbubble and TeePublic stuff to help us out, that is a great time to pick up a hat or a t-shirt or whatever it might be. Keep in mind that if you want to help us out in some other ways like that, you could also click on the thanks button. Speaking of Thanksgiving, you could click on the join button as well, or Patreon. They're both exactly the same as far as the different tiers that are over there. So if you are interested in the Darkcast podcasts, then that's when you get on the Darkcast tier. It's kind of self-explanatory. Pick Your Poison is when you get to specifically fund some kind of an episode that you want us to do. If you're like, man, it's been way too long since they've done a Superstar Scores, or I really want them to watch this thing for a fan outs table or something, that's how you do it. And also keep in mind to chat it up and leave a comment below, hit the like button, and make sure you are subscribed to the channel on YouTube and everything like that, or wherever you're listening to us. And also hop on over to our Discord, become part of the family over there. That server is free and totally available for anybody to just hop in and have some fun. So go ahead and do that. So I think we should just go back all the way to the Full Gear stuff. We will talk about spoilers for SmackDown tonight, which technically happened before Full Gear, but I think that that's more so round that out and talk about what's going to be broadcast later on. Full Gear, lots of interesting outcomes that took place on this that I was pretty shocked to see, and then a lot of things that I was not at all surprised whatsoever because, go back to our predictions. We're running those down and talking about that. As I said, I did not watch any of this except for the latter quarter, I would say, maybe even less than that, of the main event. By the time I got around to actually loading that up and watching the show and not being not in front of a computer and everything, I basically saw just a bloody mess in the ring and Eddie Kingston coming out and stuff. So all of the results, you can obviously find all the results out there. We're not going to break down each and every little bits and pieces, but Saturday Tailgate pre-show, going through this, nothing really stood out to me except for the idea that I was a little bit surprised that the Bang Bang Gang won that $200,000 match. And I'm not too surprised in the sense of I really thought it was going to be one team or the other because it's kind of hit or miss, but has anything come out of that as this is why they booked that, or is there something that I'm totally missing from just not missing or not paying attention to Collision or something like that?
Well, yeah, because Collision was obviously on last night instead of they did a Thanksgiving edition as opposed to Saturday, and the Bang Bang Gang challenged FTR off the tag team titles. So that's why I did that match, to give them a reason to challenge them for the tag titles.
That makes sense then. I don't know why that would be necessarily for the $200,000 other than to just give them something to fight for, but if that sets up at least future tag title match scenario, then sure. Why not?
Do we think they gave them the money? Do we think they gave Tony his money back in exchange for a tag team title opportunity?
I wouldn't. I'd rather just keep that $100,000 for myself. What happened with like the Boom and Doom thing? Anything funny, interesting happened there?
Paul White was there, which I think was like the first time since the last time they did a Boom and Doom match, and he was walking out with the Rizzler. Big Justice hit a diamond cutter, and I know they did a promo afterwards saying that they want to challenge for gold, which I'm guessing will be Ring of Honor gold. I thought the thing with the AJ matches is I always go into it super grumpy. I always kind of like hate how long they take, but then by the end of it, I'm like, all right, everybody had fun, and I must admit, I was charmed by the end of it, as I always am with the AJ matches.
The Rizzler's not really a part of that crew, right? Isn't that just?
Yeah, he is.
Is he? I thought it was just like that. That's like a father and son, and then the Rizzler's. Is he related to them or something?
Well, listen here, bud. When the Rizzler is getting more pops than the father and son, we're gonna bring the Rizzler with us wherever we go.
I don't, how they got connected in the first place or something.
I think they just must be friends. Like maybe they go to school together or something.
Maybe they gave him a cookie. I don't know.
Those cookies are good.
Yeah. I've had one since we've talked about them, and yeah, I like them. They're good. Not my go-to, but then again, I don't have a Costco around me, so yeah. If I shop there more often, I'm sure I probably would get one here and there. But Eddie Kingston and Hook beat the Workhorsemen. Later on, that tag team falls apart. El Sky team retains the CMLL World Trios titles over the Don Callis family. Not at all surprising there. Any other tailgate brawl kind of thoughts?
I'm guessing we're going to keep a theme whenever we do tailgate brawl of it blending into the pay-per-view. But I like the way they did that with this match instead of last time around, where the story was that Okada was late to the show. So the tailgate brawl ends with Okada driving up to the arena and slowly grabbing his gear, and then the show starts with his entrance into the match.
Did they say why he was late? Was it just like, oh, he's late and that's it? Or was it like
traffic,
a reason?
Traffic. Driving from New York City to Jersey.
Not a storyline like, oh, he got into a car accident and he's a little wobbly on the way, or like somebody slashed his tires or something. It was just like, yeah, he's not here yet. That's it.
Yeah,
no, he was teaming with Takeshita, and so decided to make him wrestle the first like 5-10 minutes of the match, like handicapped, and so then he just comes in when he feels like it.
Yeah, and you know what that traffic is like, Tony. You were driving from Jersey to New York City.
It wasn't all that bad. I wasn't the one doing it, but it wasn't bad. All things considered. Take a wrong turn sometimes, that sucks, but the first match of like the past the main card kind of a thing. Pac beats Darby Allin. Again, stop me if there's something to talk
Good
about.
Match, I don't think these two can have a bad match, and it was a bit more aggressive with like Pac going after the burns on Darby and needing the help of Wheeler Yuta and a baseball bat to beat Darby, but I thought it was fun.
Timeless Love Bombs beat the Babes of Wrath, Sisters of Sin, and Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne. They have won the right to pick their stipulation for their semifinals match against the Shafir and Bayne team. And now that Dynamite and Collision have aired and everything, we know what that setup is. They're going to have a hardcore holiday death match on next week's episode of Dynamite. So we also know that the Babes of Wrath beat the Sisters of Sin on Dynamite, so they are going into the finals, which makes me go, okay, well then they don't have to do this, but we had all kind of reached the same point of view of like, whoever wins this is probably going to lose that semifinal match. And then now it feels even more likely like that. Like I look at that and I go, okay, well, Timeless Love Bombs win the 4-way. They pick the stipulation. So they're going to lose to the heel team, and the heel team's going to go up against Babes of Wrath. Could be wrong, but that's how I see it, at least.
We could always get a respectful babyface finals, but I'm thinking we're getting Marina and Megan in the finals against Babes of Wrath.
Yeah, that seems the most logical outcome, to have like a definitive babyface team versus a definitive heel team for the final match. This match was okay, kind of unnecessary, and the tournament overall has been pretty poor, really, from an in-ring quality standpoint.
Yep.
As far as the booking too, I mean, I crunched the numbers recently, and I was like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. The timeline of announcing it and then announcing the bracket was a month. And then it became, okay, well, we're going to start that in a couple days. And then like, we're going to drag that out for like 2 months. And I'm like, man, it's to go, you've been waiting for a while, and we're going to announce these titles. And then we're going to wait 3.5 months basically to crown the champions. It's like, you probably could have just waited, or you could have actually done all the matches and finished it by Full Gear. I think that maybe would have been a slightly better idea. I don't feel like there's anything, at least nothing that's coming across to me, that feels like, well, this needs to end at Winter is Coming or something. But I'm not Tony Khan.
I have a question, and perhaps it's a foolish one because I don't know how much you guys are keeping up with ROH. But
you think I'm keeping up with ROH at all?
Is the Ring of Honor Women's Pure Championship tournament just on hold?
No, it's still going on.
But it's kind of on pause because one of the semifinals is Queen Aminata versus Deonna Purrazzo, and Queen Aminata's injured. Okay, yeah. So yeah, okay.
That's what I thought, because I'm like, it's weird that Final Battle is here, and I still haven't heard about a finals.
The most recent thing that they had done was, I think, on like the 19th or something. If I remember correctly, it was Yuka Sakazaki had beaten Serena Deeb. I think that's the last thing that I had come across. I might have missed something, but
that was a quarterfinal match. So they're on the semis now.
So I mean, I don't know. Maybe they.
I mean, it's just unfortunate because like that was announced a while ago.
Yeah. I mean, it started it was announced in April.
April? I was thinking July. Oh my god, April is crazy.
No, it started in July because they had to pause it because they were going to do it, and then they had to do stuff with the.
They had injuries.
The Team Championship instead because of Red Velvet's injury, so they paused that, and so yeah. I mean, this has been like not that this is relevant to like Full Gear discussion, but it's like that was a completely cursed tournament. So, and it's seemingly a cursed championship from the get-go, so I don't really see. I'd almost like be half mind of just like abandoning it at this point, but I guess they can't really do that. But yeah, as for like the women's tag titles, yeah, it's like a case of they could have done it sooner, but I think people would be more willing to just look past all of that if the matches and the stuff they've been doing in the meantime have been were of a better quality. I think, especially when you now have the Continental Classic happening, we'll talk about that when we get to talk about Dynamite and everything's happened, and Collision and everything that happened there. It's just night and day, the in-ring quality of those two tournaments, so it just means it stands out more in a negative way.
Yeah, the interest level that I have in ROH, of course, is very, very low, and then adding new titles and going in the subordinate, this is like a tertiary championship kind of way, it all slowly evaporates into I ultimately don't care whatsoever. And when it comes to hey, somebody like Yuka Sakazaki defeated Serena Deeb, but I'm like, all right, so at most you're giving the belt to somebody that you've had around since the beginning of AEW that you've never really cared too much about and only really pushed to be a sporadic challenger that loses once a year to something. And at best, that's just, she loses in the semifinals to somebody else. So I'm like, all right, I'm not invested in this. And it wouldn't shock me if this belt gets crowned. If it gets crowned on like an ROH final battle type of thing, then obviously I'll be paying attention to it and I'll be, watching that show and reporting on that. But if it just happened on an episode of ROH, I wouldn't know. I never check any of the ROH results anymore. And it sucks because like I wish I could be, more supportive, but I try. Yeah. It's like asking me to care about the Evolve Championship. Like I ultimately don't care. It's the Evolve title.
You care more than we do.
I care more than most people. I care enough to notice whether or not the guy's on the freaking roster page. That's for sure. But at the end of the day, when we get to the end of the year awards, it's not like I'm going to be like, what's a really good show, Evolve. So I mean, the women's tag title tournament, it's still going on, but next week we're going to find out if it's Babes of Wrath against Shafir and Bane, or it's Babes of Wrath against Shakira Kawa and Storm. FTR wins the tag titles from Brodito. We all saw that coming. It's something that we've broken down as far as we could imagine that the future is heading towards this direction and that direction and that kind of thing. Was that a solid match? I would assume so.
Fucking great match. It's pretty
excellent match.
FTR, yeah, probably one of the better matches on the show. Well, that's a tough call because I actually thought the show was well wrestled, but solid match, absolutely.
Is it where the best wrestle?
I would say so.
Yeah, I thought that there was a lot of great action in the match. I think that they did a lot of a lot of near falls towards the end, so they made Bandito look as strong as possible, basically having him pretty much having to take on FTR almost single-handedly for the last 3 or 4 minutes of the entire match. So yeah, I was surprised that neither Bandito or Brody King were entered into the Continental Classic, but they clearly have a different vision for them. I don't think they're quite done of pursuing the tag team titles just yet. And of course, Bandito's already the Ring of Honor World Champion. He's got his own defenses to worry about there as well. So, but they had a nice run as a fairly makeshift tag team, and now the titles are on FTR. And I hope that they continue in this trend of. It's the one issue that I kind of have with this is that I hope they continue on the trend of, because the tag team division has been looking a lot better and a lot more interesting and a lot more dynamic recently than what it has been. And I'm kind of worried that this is all just happening just so we can put the titles on Adam Copeland and Christian Cage rather than, make the tag division as good as possible. FTR are one of the best tag teams in the world, and so they're worthy to be tag team champions. But if all of this is being done just to put the titles on Cope and Christian, I don't think it's worth it.
We'll come back to this at Revolution when it happens.
Oh yeah, it will happen. I kind of hope it just they just come in and then they start. If they win it and then they just continue on with having good tag team matches and feuds and rivalries and just one-off matches with the other tag teams, then that's totally fine. But if they just win it and then they just they don't do anything with it for a month or two and then they lose it to the first or second team they defend it against, then I'm a little bit like, okay, we need to move on. 2020, it's 2020. Will be 2026. We need to move on.
Hold on, because did you just say Revolution? Good lord, if they fucking drag this out for 4 more months.
Oh, I assume so. Because that's the next paper.
It's not dragging it out, is it? Because it's like this FTR just having matches with other people, and then they could just have Christian and Cope return at towards Revolution time.
Because the next pay-per-view is World's End, obviously, and that's that's way too quick to just be like, okay, FTR just loses the titles immediately. I mean, it could happen, they could.
Why wouldn't it happen?
But I do think that would be a little bit like, all right, well then it's you very much did just do the transition thing.
And
so
also, it shouldn't happen it shouldn't happen that way, because also, like, even if it was like World's End, or they would be available for it, they should earn the tag title shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they should earn the tag title shot.
Beat enough people to be like, FTR are the champions, they're defending the titles, and even if they didn't have any kind of a feud going into it, they are stuck feuding against them anyway. That'd be the
idea. Need FTR.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be one of those hypocrites that says, like, because I criticised all that Nikki Bella stuff, that's like her not earning a title opportunity, and then she's going to have a match with Io Sky just because she beat her up. I can't apply the same logic to if an AEW says it's a good idea. No, they did beat FTR, but they beat FTR months ago, and FTR have gone on to have other matches, earn a title shot, and then win the title shot. So Hope and Christian have to do the same thing.
See, that's the reason why I don't want to drag it out another 4 months, because I just think you're hitting a point where even me, as the biggest, Edge and Christian fan, is just like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, maybe we leave it at a one and done if you're gonna go, I'll see you in 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, at least that's the situation with the tag titles right now. Then the Bang Bang Gang, in the meantime, they are going to be, set up for some kind of match in the future after the Collision episode. So it's fine enough tag team for FTR to get a win over and to start building a little bit of a tag title reign and everything. But then you come back around to it when you want to do that. I'm still very firmly in the camp of, I would be very shocked if FTR drops the titles to anybody but Edge and Christian. But then again, I didn't think that Brodito would win. And I thought that it was just going to go to FTR then. So, for all I know, maybe there is plans to put the belts on Jet Speed, or maybe it's to put the titles on some new tag team, or maybe Tony Khan's like, I don't need to think about this. I can only think about titles 4.5 months in advance. That's it. I don't know. But regardless, that's the tag title situation going on out of that. And as far as tag titles and new titles and everything, Ricochet won the Casino Gauntlet match. He is the national champion. I absolutely hate the way that the belt looks. It shouldn't be surprising. I've never liked, I think, any NWA title, and this is a full-blown, like, that looks like that. And I think that this is a worthwhile discussion to talk a little bit about the Continental Classic as well. That's stupid. This is everything that I thought was good. Well, everything I thought was going to be the case with this is exactly what's happening. And
hold on. Let's get through the national championship first. The Casino Gauntlet was fun. They really hammed it up with the story of, like, everybody kept going after Ricochet, and there were several names in that match that I started going, I'd like to see, Danny Garcia win it more, or I'd like to see Wheeler Yuta win it more, or just as we went, I thought it was good. The belt does look exactly like an old NWA National Championship design, but that design was never owned by anybody outside of the original belt maker, much like, a lot of the Reggie Parks belts, like the Winged Eagle, and like AEW can just do a Winged Eagle belt if they want to. WWE doesn't own the design. But, like, cool for Ricochet. He can definitely go to Ring of Honor next Friday and defend it against, like, Willie Mack or someone. And I'd be fine with it. I think it's cool that he won a belt. To me, this feels firmly tertiary status. Like, Ricochet's cool, but I think in the hierarchy of belts, and there may be more of them, now the Continental Classic is happening, it doesn't feel like a high-up title belt.
It was a good, like, a Casino Gauntlet match. I think it was kind of a lot story driven, because you had so many members of the Hurt Syndicate, Don Callis family, Death Riders all in the match and all interact with each other, and then, like, there's a conglomeration as well, and they're kind of allies when you have, like, Orange Cassidy and Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey coming in as well to help out. I think that it was well paced and put together. I think it was quite obvious from as soon as like Bobby Lashley and Shelby were starting, Ricochet came out third. That it kind of confirmed that Ricochet was going to win to me. But it's good for him to get a championship. He's done a lot of good work in the year that he's been in the company, and I think that it's nice for him to get rewarded with something tangible to defend and to hopefully be this touring champion that they envision for the national championship. In terms of this and what they're doing with the Continental Championship as part of the Continental Classic, I think we just need to come to the acceptance, not that we necessarily need to say that it's good, bad, whatever, but come to the acceptance that just Tony Khan just really likes belts.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what it is.
It
He
struck
just
me
really
as funny
likes.
because it's like I just picture him like, yeah, I always find a picture of Tony Khan doing the whole like as a kid sitting there with his little action figures and stuff, and I kind of just picture right there when you said that, like him being like, I like this belt, I want another belt, like, hey dad, look at my new belt.
Yeah, he just really likes to add championships and to do as much as possible with that, and feels like the more that you can't really go wrong, like you can't have too many championships. So, and what they're going to plan on doing with the Continental Championship, what that means for if Carter was to lose it. Because at the end of the day, like people say, this will be the end of the Unified Championship. Well, it's only the end of the Unified Championship if Carter loses the Continental Championship.
Yeah, so anybody that's confused about this has been the way that they've at least, they could be like, okay, well, the wording was a little bit confusing or something. Like, no, I don't think that it is. I think it's pretty straightforward. But if Okada doesn't win the Continental Classic, Okada then is no longer the Continental Champion, which means he is no longer the Unified Champion, because the Unified Championship is the unification that isn't actually merged between the Continental title and the International title. So by default of that, he's not defending the Unified Championship. He's defending through a tournament half of those. And if, say, anybody, literally anybody but Okada wins this, then he continues to be the international champion, which was not the title that he went into the unification thing with. That was what Kenny Omega had. And then whoever wins the tournament is the Continental Champion. And that means that we would then have the non-unified title, and we would have an international and a national champion. And he could be mathematically eliminated and already vacate the title before the finals. All it takes is 2 more losses, I think it is, or 3 more losses. I forget exactly like the math behind it, because he's already lost once. So if he loses, I think it's 3. If he loses like 3, then he's done. He pretty much effectively can't win. And then we get a new champion, and then the whole thing becomes, why are you still carrying around the Unified Championship if you're not, even in the time frame between that, if that were to happen, which I don't think is going to happen, I'm expecting him to be in the finals, it would be like, well, then you got to stop carrying around that unified title because you're not the unified champion. You mathematically are already vacating the title. I go back to what I had said before. You don't do a unification of a championship where you don't unify the title, then you make a unification title where the titles are separate. And then I don't think the point of the international and national title is like that. And then that makes me kind of go, well, then can't we unify the international and the national championship? And then we're back to that again. I hate it with a passion. I think it's terrible. And I think everything about it is a downgrade. I think that the national title is ugly. I never liked the unified title. I never liked the name, the Unified Champion. I think that this was a massive, like, at the end of the year awards thing, this is going to be one of the things that I complain about again. It's just like, this was needlessly convoluted. And if anybody would have mentioned it from the start, I think a rational mind would have been like, yeah, but here's the issues. And you can go back to the moment that they introduced this and me being like, this is going to be the case at some point. And, we might be at that spot already. He could just retain, like he could win the tournament, and continue to be the unified champion. And I would still hate it because it's still eventually we're going to get into that same scenario.
So I do think that the best case scenario here is for him to just lose it.
Me too.
And because he's already stopped carrying around the unified title. Starting with the Continental Classic matches, he's just carrying the international title. Because they made it clear he's not, since the Continental Classic is being defended, he doesn't know if he'll be unified champion. So the easiest thing to do here is to just say, unified title is a cool gimmick. Put the belt on the shelf, and just have him be the international champion after somebody, let's say, Mox becomes Continental champion. I don't think Mox is winning, but that's a possibility.
Yeah, I think it's fundamentally just the Unified Championship is kind of the marker of it'll be something that comes back potentially in the future if they decide to have another champion versus champion match for the Continental and International Championship, or if Okada just retains and then he is just holding that he's still the Unified Champion, they still can go through that route instead. But it does mean that until this tournament is settled and we know who the champion is going to be, and if it's Okada, Takeshita, whoever else it might potentially be, then we either have a new Continental champion and Okada is the international champion, and we have or we have Okada becoming the unified champion again. So they're the different routes they'll take for it. I think that I have no issue with having an international champion and a national champion because it's exactly the same as the Intercontinental and US Championship.
Yeah.
I never liked that either. That's the thing. Yeah, I think that people need to have better outcomes than that too.
But yeah, I think that will just be the route it takes. It's just the Unified Championship is an additional kind of more gimmicky belt, which only comes back in these special circumstances if it does ever come back. And that might never happen again, but it might be a thing that 3-4 years down the line, we're going to have another match between the international and continental champion, and that means we're bringing back the unified championship for this. So I think that's probably the route they'll take. The alternative is obviously not as palatable, but it is technically a case of it is just called the AEW Unified Championship. So it does mean that it is separate to the international and the continental championship. So
that would be so silly.
It would be silly, and I assume they wouldn't do that. But then again, he does really like belts, so he might want to keep.
I mean, he created the American Championship for one match.
Yeah, but he likes belt. Hey! He's got the money. If he wants to play around, go ahead.
At that point, though, it starts to get all right, well then how many new championships are going to create it in 2026? Is there going to be the Super Mega Ultra Championship? And then there's the, every bit of we need a fourth mid-card title for the men. Yeah. Why isn't there an ROH World 6 Women's Tag Team title thing? And it's oh my God, enough. So I'm hoping that by the end of this all comes crashing down. He learns a lesson. We end up with 2 mid-card titles and that's it. And I would hope that those 2 mid-card titles would be the AEW TNT Championship and the AEW Intercontinental Championship, or the AEW International Championship, or the better looking national title, or the Continental. Just one of those and not 2 or 3 of them.
You say learn his lesson. Is are they suffering because of this?
Yeah,
I think it makes it look kind of stupid and frivolous, and that's maybe not necessarily translating to any kind of money loss or something, but I don't think that is any kind of a benefit. And
even if that's the case, though, the situation you just laid out would see them lose an additional 2 belts outside of the Unified Championship, because you would like to see them get rid of.
I think 2 mid-card titles is more than enough.
So
I think a roster as big as they have, and you've got you don't do a brand split type mentality that WWE does, then I think you do need more than 2 mid-card titles.
And I think the way they have it set, as long as each title can have a unique gimmick, like Continental title has Continental rules, which means 20 minutes, no interference.
Does that really register though? Like, does that feel different? Because to me, it doesn't.
It registered for me in an annoying way on Collision, because as Pac is coming out, they're like, yes, and no members of the Death Riders will be at ringside. And I just thought in my head, I'm like, well, that's silly. Why did they just have every Death Riders match be contested under Continental rules?
Just, okay, nobody can interfere then on any match. If you want to put the logic out there, because like you don't want to do that because pro wrestling's pro wrestling, then it's like, well, then what makes the Continental different? Why can you enforce it there, but you can't with the TNT title, you know?
I do like that in the sense of that does give a wrestler a chance to have some fun with that belt, because it's a more fast pace. It has to be done in 20 minutes. You know what I mean? There's ways to play around with it at least. So as long as there's a gimmick behind each belt, I'm good with it.
Also, people always get that logic restart. It's not that there's no interference. There's no interference in any match. Well, there shouldn't be any. That's always against the rules. But the difference is with the Continental Classic is you can't have anyone accompany you to ringside. You can't have anyone in your corner. It's a no managers thing.
But it's also, and if anybody interferes, they get fined or suspended or something. Like there's a wording of it that like keeps everybody away, which I like, and I think you should do more of.
Yeah, that's like, I can understand the idea of the logic of like, why does he do that for every match? But then again, it's like, well, that's like you kind of want like a big portion of pro wrestling by not allowing that to happen. But I can understand like some people like arguing that they should just do that for pretty much every single match. Like why? But you know, then you miss out on certain opportunities and certain chances to do things.
That's why I'm not a big fan of that gimmick, because to me it doesn't even really feel different. It's still the same style match. It's just that you know it's not going to end in a DQ, or like, you know, somebody comes out, interferes, and then that person loses or something. So then the rest of it's exactly the same as everything else. And the national title being defended on other companies, that is a gimmick that like, that doesn't register all that much to me either, because it's like, well, then you know, how many people come in from CMLL and challenge for whatever, or how many people go out and challenge for another title? And that was already the international title previously. So then what's the gimmick that separates the international and the TNT from each other or anything else? Because they don't have anything separate. So they're just exactly the same. And then two of them are named the same. Kind of just feels like this is one of those things where like, if you gave all four of them something that sounds different and acts different, then I wouldn't be opposed to it. Like, not saying to specifically go in this direction, but like, let's say, you know, the TNT title is their mid-card title. That's just their Intercontinental, their United States, whatever, you know, their mid-card belt. And then you created the international and you made that where that is a championship that is defended strictly by people that are not in the company, and like nobody ever gets a TNT title shot if they're not in AEW. So even like, you know, a guest spot from a CMLL guy, it's like, well, you're not going to be in a TNT title match, you're going to be in an international. I don't think you should do that, but that's some way. And then if you made the other two, one of them's like a cruiserweight and the other one's a hardcore or something, then I'd be like, okay, well then, you know, that's variety. But it just feels to me like it's like, I want 4 mid-card titles because I want people to fight for championships. I can't think of a name for them, so I'm just going to kind of repeat the same name. And then that'll be good enough. And I don't know. That's exactly the type of fantasy booking that I hate seeing online. Johnny Khan just has the money for it. I was looking at somebody's thing the other day. I don't remember how I came across it. And I don't know the person and stuff. I'm not going to like put them on blast even if I did. But it was like, you know, when we were, eventually we're going to do our thing about what championships would we do? And yeah, it's probably stuff I've explained my thought process, so nobody's going to be surprised about that. But I had seen somebody else's, and it was like they were making stuff for like the 2K things or whatever, and I was like, oh my god, this person is insane. They had the like undisputed WWE title, the Universal title, and the World title for the men and the women. They also had like randomly like the Women's European Championship is on NXT, and it was like they had something like 27 belts for Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, and they were all just this arbitrary. Okay, so the Women's European title is on NXT, and then on Raw they've got the men's. Oh god, I can't even remember the name of it. It was like one of those other championships where it was just like, so why is this like the European title, or why is this the whatever? Why is this that? And it was just like, clearly this person's just like, I like belts, and it's the same thing. And I'm like, man, I'm not digging this. So I'm kind of hoping that we end this tournament in a way that's like, it's not 4 separate mid-card titles that all mean the same thing. Then I think you need a brand split or something. But updates on that front, as far as Continental Classic stuff has happened so far. We had got a couple matches on Dynamite. We got a couple on the Collision episode. And Claudio Castagnoli and Jon Moxley and Konosuke Takeshita are all at 3 points with the Blue League. Kyle Fletcher, Pac, and Kevin Knight are all with 3 points at the Gold League, which puts Okada as, at a disadvantage right now. And, now that we know the brackets and now that we know the whole setup with everything like that, I am still thinking that this comes down to Takeshita versus Okada in the finals. I'm kind of thinking it's going to be, because it's a Blue League winner goes up against the Gold League runner-up and vice versa, right? Yeah. So I'm thinking it's going to be Okada is the runner-up of the Gold League, and he is up against, I'm thinking it could be against Moxley, could be against, I don't know, that one I'm a little bit like, I'm not too sure. I think Takeshita goes up against Kyle Fletcher, and Takeshita beats Fletcher. Okada beats whoever is the runner-up, or the, however that balances out. And then I think Okada still just retains.
I think that I like the layouts of the brackets. I think there's it's really, really stacked from a wrestler quality perspective. I think that Okada will win the Gold League, and he'll be followed up by Kyle Fletcher in second. And that means that Takeshita wins the Blue League, and so faces Kyle Fletcher. I think that they will do that match because I think you need to have Takeshita up against someone who is a heel, because they are trying to make him like the de facto babyface, and then him beating another member of the Don Callis family on the way to facing Okada works well. And I think the other match will be Okada and Orange Cassidy, because they have an inbuilt history with each other.
And he is like, there's Dorada, Strong, and Cassidy, and kind of Takeshita, but we already kind of factor him in. But like Moxley and Castagnoli are the heels, so it could be a little bit weird if it's Okada versus Moxley. But Okada, Orange Cassidy, you're going to get a good match. People are going to be cheering for Orange Cassidy and everything.
Yeah, I think the story is quite. Yeah, I think the story with like Moxley and Claudio is like that's the. I know I keep saying it, but like it does feel like now like this is the kind of the cradle where the Death Rider will die, which will be in that match when Claudio beats Moxley. And I think Moxley, he's won his first match against Dorada, but Dorada I think is going to lose pretty much every match except one probably in the Blue League. He's just there to gain some exposure to a US audience and to have good matches, but will probably be the whipping boy of the of that side of the tournament.
You said every match but one. Who do you think he's going to beat? Strong?
I don't know. Strong mate. He will just win one match, but that'll be. I don't know who it will be. He might be an upset one if he gets a win over Fletcher or something. Oh no, yeah, not Fletcher. Sorry, he's on the other side. Either like Claudio or Yeah, it could be. It could be as easy as just having Strong lose. Strong is also one of the guys that's clearly going to lose more matches than he wins.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's just there for that reason. I think Cassidy makes more sense as because if you are going to have like a babyface versus Okada in the semi-finals, then you go with Cassidy over Strong.
Yeah.
I think it muddies the waters too. Yeah, I think it muddies the waters too much if you have, even though like just from the standpoint of like it would be a fun match to see Okada versus Moxley or Okada versus Claudio. It's like, yeah, those would be fun matches, but it's just okay. Then you basically just have 4 heels in the semi-finals of, at the moment at least. I know Takeshi will be treated as babyface, but you have 4 heels essentially in the semi-finals of the tournament, which feels a little bit lopsided.
Yeah, I think Fletcher will win Gold League, and I think Okada will run out. But I do think they'll do Takeshita, Fletcher, and then I think we're looking at Okada and probably a Death Rider. I won't say which, but I don't know if they're going to implode during the match, because that match is next week, and I don't think it's just going to be like in the middle of the Continental Classic, Moxley gets, snuffed out of the Death Riders. Because in that case, then he is the babyface that faces Okada. Because I do think Moxley becomes babyface out of all this.
I find it quite surprising you both seem quite set on Fletcher winning the Gold League. Like, the one thing I'm certain about this Continental Classic, and maybe I'll get proven wrong as things go on, but is that Takeshi's not losing a match until the final. So he has to win the blue. He has to win the Blue League if he doesn't lose a single match.
I mean, if they do Takeshita and Okada as the 2 leaders of that, then they do Takeshita leading up the Blue League against Kyle Fletcher being number 2 with the gold. Yeah,
that's why it
works that way.
Yeah, that's why I say it.
But I have Kyle being number 1 in the gold, so that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
It's a case of like I just find that, because I think the only way not the only way, but like I think the big way that you make it feel like Takeshi's definitely going to win this is if you have him go undefeated until the final. And I'd say the final will be the final. I don't know. I think I would still lean towards Okada because of the fact that you can build that story a little bit more and have a few more matches, or build it up a little bit more before you eventually have Takeshi to get the victory. But I think that it makes more sense and it makes it feel more tangible that Takeshi's got a likelihood of winning if you have him just win every single one of his matches in the group, because then it feels like Okada's more vulnerable, especially if you're continuing to tell the story, which you did with the opener, that Fletcher seems to have Okada's number.
So, I mean, we're going to find out what happens when it comes to the actual end result of all that, when it comes to World's End. But over the course of the next couple weeks or so, we got a lot of episodes of Dynamite and Collision that are, specials like the Winter's Coming show and the Holiday Bash and all that other kind of things. And we're going to get lots and lots of more Continental Classic matches. So far, they're off to a good start with like the quality of the actual matches, which I don't think any of us were really questioning.
I do want to say I like this tournament because like everybody knows in every line of work pretty much, but after Thanksgiving, everybody's pretty much foot off the gas, right? And I like that this makes the TV shows still feel important, while at the end of the day, they're really just booking straight matches. And it's a good way to do that.
I also appreciate, like, especially with the first week, they've already given 2 upsets in terms of Fletcher beating Okada again and then Knight beating Darby Allin.
I was genuinely surprised by that.
Yeah, I had like doing the coverage of that. I had already written it out as like, okay, Kevin Knight's going to lose, and and then I was like, oh fuck, I gotta rearrange that a little bit. So
that's why we don't pre-write things, Tony.
It works more often than it doesn't. Speaking of which, I was also the one person in the world that was trying to find the spoilers for the Collision episode, and then when Observer puts up their stuff, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. The 2 things that stand out to me that don't make any sense: I did not anticipate Roderick Strong beating Konosuke Takeshita, and I don't think it makes any sense that Ty Mello beat Tekla. So I'm going to put on my coverage thing. That's what they say, but this seems kind of bullshit. And then Tony Khan being like, haha, we got you. We put out fake stuff and whatever. And I was like, that's because of those two things. I fucking understood that, you know.
What,
go to Tony Mango.
Was it Tony Khan putting out saying that they put out fake stuff? I thought it was a case of like there was a person that like reported to Wrestling Observer in the crowd who basically just gave the wrong result, which either is a case of they were deliberately lying, which, you know, I guess if they wanted to, then whatever reason, it just feels a bit odd. I don't know why. Like, you shouldn't really, as much as, like, the wrestling media is pretty, like, blah, it's like, I wouldn't try and fuck around with them too much, because, like, at the end of the day, they're the ones that are paying most attention to what you're doing. You don't want to make an enemy out of a lot of them.
Wait, yeah.
Or, which would be the even worse outcome, is that person doesn't know the difference between Roderick Strong and Konosuke Takeshita. Which,
you
like,
might be able to confuse the two blondes, but even that, they look different. So,
well, Tomo's got brown hair.
She's not even blonde anymore,
right? Yeah, but I mean, like, you know, you can stretch a little bit easier than Strong and Takeshita.
Yeah, we know, Tony. We know that you think all women look the same, but we just like we need to move on from that mindset. But I think that
really putting the man in Mango there, Tony.
Is this something that's been established? What are we talking about?
No,
we're just calling you sexist, Tony. That's what we're doing.
I'm like, wait a minute. Do we need a check? Am I like actually an asshole?
No, no. But I'd say that like.
As soon as I read that report, I was just kind of like, okay, it took hours. Like I sent Rob a message about it where I was just kind of like, again, like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm sitting here again being like the entirety of Twitter and the entirety of like anything that I Google is people retweeting my post and being like, that's the only place you can find what's happening. And I'm like, all right, something's up here. Like, why is this not happening? Like, at the end, everybody that's there is not talking. It's one thing if like nobody wants to give results to me, but like, you mean to tell me that like Meltzer doesn't have any? You mean to tell me that Insider doesn't? Like all these other things. And then for me to read that a couple hours later, I was just like, all right, this is bullshit. Like, there's no fucking way. You got me an upset with the Kevin Knight win, so maybe Roderick Strong beats Takeshita. But there's no fucking way that they just did Tekla versus Ty Mello and Ty wins. Like, that has to be bullshit.
It's one of the things, like, all the rest of the things are just dependent on somebody in the crowd just sharing information with them. Because they can't travel to every single show and have, like, plant a reporter in there to make sure they get all the details. But I think it's just a case of, like, this person got stuff wrong, and I saw like some Voices of Wrestling who are very, very, very critical of the wrestling media. Think that they absolutely suck from top to bottom, pretty much. Like lampoon the fact that like this report came out, and most people, unlike yourself, who did decide to say like this is what they're saying. Caveat: this doesn't make any sense, but I'm just going to say what's been reported. Most aggregators just took that information and just said, oh, this is what happened. And then you just go with it. And then it just circulates around. This is what's happening. Like nobody is questioning this stuff or getting it verified or double checking. Like, especially if you do have like actual direct sources, like backstage, you can find out pretty easily. Like this seems weird. Like there's no way.
They even forgot a match.
Yeah.
Like they had advertised ahead of time that FTR was going to have their promo. So like my coverage of it was like, as far as I've found, nothing is indicating what happened in that promo. But then they had also advertised the Daniel Garcia and Matt Menard match. And I'm like, okay, so then the only thing that's out there is Observer being like, these are the results. And it doesn't include that match and the promo and anything else. And I'm like, no, somebody's bullshitting something.
So I'm reading this post from 18 hours ago that Tony was referring to from Tony. So that 10-12 on Wednesday night, it's apparent that those AEW Collision, or I guess on last night, that those AEW Collision spoilers about tonight's show were fake news. It's just my opinion. I think it's an example of why I don't believe every rumor I see online. How can top sites get multiple match results wrong, posting spoilers as, in quotations, news on a network TV show? By the way, I thought that the Thanksgiving, and then he says the show is great. That's rough. That's pretty rough. That
I think also what's crazy about it is that I think if I remember research correctly, once Wrestling Observer found out that the results were false and they fixed it, they fixed the Takeshita and Roger Strong thing, but then they kept that Time Mello beat.
Oh, did they?
For a while, I think they fixed it now, but like they fixed the first one and then they just still kept the other one out for a while. So it means that they were just getting like drip fed this stuff and just was changing on the fly without finding out like all information. Like as soon as you find out that it's like anything, like when I'm like doing like copywriting work and stuff like that. Like if you find one mistake, you then check everything to see if everything like because like if you've made one mistake, then you could make other mistakes as well. You have to double check everything once you find something that's wrong. You know, everyone can make a mistake. There's no harm in making something wrong as long as you correct it afterwards and you just own up and say like, oh yeah, that was our bad. We got wrong information. Here's the actual results. That can happen.
It happens to me. I mean, I've got plenty of instances where somebody will be like, oh, by the way, you forgot to update. Usually it's based off of the heel and face turn list, not surprising. But like plenty of times people will be like, oh, you know what? You're actually missing a tag team on like the AEW list or something. And I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. They have been tagging for a while. Then it's like, cool. And then I go through and I look at the entire roster page and try to figure it out. And
by the way, they still have it up that Tamela defeated Tekla.
Okay, so they haven't touched it yet. But
and they switched Takeshita and Strong to conflicting reports. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, we all haven't just watched the television show and found out what the results are now as well. So
hey, it's 2025. You can show people exactly what's in front of them, and you can just kind of be like, "That orange is orange," and they'll be like, "I didn't say anything about an apple," and then you're like, "Motherfucker." So
I think that's the best looking orange. That's the best looking orange.
Somebody out there, I hear conflicting reports. I'm hearing that I got 11,000 extra votes.
I've heard
the dead all voted for me. I'm a big fan.
Exactly Tony Orange.
The corpses love me.
Yeah, fuck him. I will be so thankful if I don't have to talk about that guy anymore.
Well, too bad for you. Thanksgiving was yesterday.
Yeah. If the heavens are out there and you want to give me a Christmas gift, you can throw out this administration and that's fun, by the way. Telling people for a split second of just like at the reunion of like, nah, and then walking away. Anyway, you know how we feel about that. Fuck anybody who supports any of that. So anyway, going back, Kyle O'Reilly beat Jon Moxley.
Yeah, that's cool.
The no holds barred match. Surprised about that.
I love this match. I had said personally when I watched it that I was surprised at the lack of crowd reaction. Someone messaged me on Twitter to be like, maybe that was on the show, but the crowd in the arena was loud about it, which totally happens all the time. But I just felt like there was a little too much quietness during the match that I thought was a really competitive and well wrestled brawl. This is my favorite match. Probably my favorite match on the show.
Yeah, I thought this match was excellent. I thought that there was it was very visceral, despite not having like a ton of like they had plenty of weapon involvement. Like had like the Forks in particular were getting heavily involved in this, but I think that a lot of it was more just using submissions and just using a lot of physicality to push the kind of boundaries in this. And I think the crowd got tired pretty quickly with just lots of matches. I think it just took them a while to get into a lot of matches. It was a heavy show to watch all in one sitting, as AEW shows typically are, but I think this one in particular, the crowd just couldn't keep up with a lot of the matches, and the same applies to pretty much the next few matches as well. That just took them a while to get into things.
I do keep echoing the same thoughts of like sometimes less is more, and starting at the time that they tend to start and going as late as they tend to go, I don't think it would be a bad idea for them to start a little earlier if they want to have some 7-hour show every single time.
Yeah.
They're like, they can get away with starting at 5 or something.
Yeah, I actually saw Sean Ross Sapp even like, yeah, these shows should probably start earlier.
Yeah, that's the thing is like a lot of the two of their recent shows that have been just as long have been the Forbidden Door and the All In show, which started earlier. They didn't feel as long, or they didn't feel like it was as much of a. Yeah, they didn't feel as much of a burden to do it. They still, they were long shows, and I think definitely in All In's case, a lot longer than this show. But yeah, it's just that late at night, especially for someone obviously in the UK watching it and stuff like that as well. But obviously that's by the by. But in any situation, it's just they need to be starting these shows if you are going to do like 5-6 hour shows every time, you need to start at like 5 in the afternoon, probably at the latest, and just carry on from that point.
And for anybody that thinks that that's just an AEW criticism, WWE, we've said it a million times, there is absolutely no need for them to have a 2-hour pre-show before Survivor Series tomorrow. Not at all. And, at least, if there's positives and negatives when it comes to this, at least WWE has firmly set a standard now of, you don't need to waste a single second watching the pre-show. So those 2 hours are quite literally there to exist for commercials. And they're getting money on it. They'll continue to do it as long as they keep getting paid for it. But, we went from an era of, okay, well, there's at least going to be one match on the pre-show. Some of the matches can actually be title matches. It could be like the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal or something, or, the U.S. titles defended, whatever it might be, to, okay, well, you start Survivor Series at 7. And that's when you start it. Some dumb fool like me will watch a show and report on the news that you need to know. But other than that, then when AEW just has an hour-long pre-show and it's like, okay, but that's just more matches that you should be watching, then it's not really a pre-show anymore. It's just part of the show, especially if it bleeds into it. Then it's even more so.
Right.
So I'm not sure if I would have gotten to the point by this point, or if it would have been earlier, where I would have been like, okay, I'm already starting to feel that like drip of, I've watched 8 matches or so by now. How many matches would that have been? It was 4 in the pre-show, then 5 with Pac, 6 with the 4-way, 7 with the FTR, 8 with Ricochet, and then 9 with O'Reilly. Yeah, that would have been 9 matches deep into this, and we still had 4 more left to go. I probably would have been like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm really excited for Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher, despite that being one of the matches that I probably would have been the most interested in.
Which was also a great match, and it was one that they almost extra had to get the crowd involved because it was a plunder match following a plunder match, which is just, I would say outright, it's just poor card structure. Like, I wouldn't have put these two next to each other, but, it's one of those things where in 95% of circumstances, this match would have no chance of getting super over, because if you're following like a guy-on-guy plunder match with another guy-on-guy plunder match, which is like more of a this one was even more so than the Fletcher and Moxley one, which was like fairly like minimal use of weapons, but more visceral, more bloody. This one was, let's get the ladders out, let's get the tables out, let's get the thumbtacks, all this other stuff, and and go as hardcore as possible. But these two have probably, like, it must be arguably the best chemistry that any two people have had in AEW. Like, they just have phenomenal matches every single time. They just work so well together. This is a pairing that, Briscoe's going to be like one of those people that helps make Fletcher. Like, that's a guy that they could constantly go back to. It's almost in the same way that like Foley played a huge part in making Triple H who he was. Like, I think Briscoe is going to be that guy for Fletcher.
I was thinking more Randy, but I'm spot on with Mick Foley.
Well, that's only because it was a one-off match, whereas like Triple H had multiple feuds at different times in his career with Foley. So,
and Mark Briscoe's great, and I like that he won here. I thought that was the right move. I like that he can brings something new to the TNT title. They have brought back giving everybody their own custom TNT title. And he can kind of take over for Adam Cole, where Adam Cole was like veteran on Collision defending this thing. I can see Briscoe doing that a lot. And I think it'll be a fun reign. And the field is wide open for who can defeat him, right? Because the roster's so stacked. And it could be a baby face. It could be a heel. You know, I like this a lot, and I hope they just keep it on him for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's already come out on like Collision, and he's challenged Daniel Garcia to a match for the title at some point. So we know that'll be happening. It's one of the best things about a character like Mark Briscoe, or like as Mick Foley as a comparison, is like he can beat anybody and he can lose to anybody, and you never know when it's going to happen. One way or the other, because like it just feels like, oh, he's going to have a match with Daniel Garcia. He's probably not going to lose that match, but he could, because that's the kind of the charm of Mark Briscoe, is that he can lose to anybody and just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, as we were going into this before, I was saying you pretty much have to put the belt on him. Just the way that you've set it up, you kind of have to. And I wasn't really into the idea of Fletcher losing the title, but at least it's to somebody like Briscoe, where he's over with the crowd. He's at that like upper mid card type status. Like, I don't think at any point in time anybody's really looking at Briscoe as necessarily being the next world champion, but there is a difference between upper mid card and the mid card and main event. Like, that's kind of the whole point of that little mid tier going on like that. And he's exactly the type of guy that could fit into that role. So whether he loses the TNT title to a main event guy like a John Moxley who needs something to do, okay, well, that makes sense if he beats Briscoe. And then if it's some upstart kind of person, you know, he drops the belt to a I don't know who would be a good example for that, like a Speedball
Hook.
or something, or Hook. Yeah, then it's like, okay, well then, okay, that person just leveled up. Like, yeah, that's what those kind of championship reigns should be. So definitely not opposed to that. The $1 Million Trios match ends with the whole Young Bucks making amends and everything. And didn't really follow this much up on Dynamite all that much. Doesn't seem like they really did a whole lot on Collision. I didn't watch Collision because I did the results.
They followed it up on Dynamite.
I didn't feel like they followed it up as much as they should have.
That's been a problem to me with the Elite in All Elite Wrestling. Sometimes I think they're so desperate to not take up a lot of room. Whereas I think they forget this is All Elite Wrestling and the people really just want to see you, especially when you're all together like this. But they did establish that, you know, Kenny Omega says, I've been a jerk before, so I can forgive them. They were already in his locker room, you know, continuing to make amends. So I like it. I'm glad that they're back together. I think they should just sort of stay that way from now until the end, because I don't see a lot of money in another split. You know what I mean? Like, if they all go heel, that's one thing, but I don't see a lot of money in splitting them again and making them do the whole will they, won't they get back together. I would just keep it like this for now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they've kind of jumped the shark with the Elite constant splitting and coming back ever. So I just don't think they can lean into that as much as they have done in the past. I think that's probably the last time they can really get away with doing it without people just going, kind of just sick of this now, and let's just, again, always come back to it's 2026, move on at some point. Like this, you've done this storyline like 2 or 3 times now in AEW, so now just keep them together until they decide to, like, one of them decides to hang up his boots, which will probably be Kenny in the next couple of years anyway. So, yeah, match was good. I don't think it was anything like particularly special, and yeah, as I say, we'll see what they decide to do with them back together as a trio and how they decide to pursue it. I'd totally be fine with them being trios champions for a while because, it's not like they're doing much with those titles at the moment anyway.
Yeah, and that's probably the best. You put it on literal company legends and that are still, by the way, as close to their prime as you're going to get. So
It puts a lot less pressure on Kenny as well. Obviously, you can still wrestle to a high level, but can't do it as frequently. So putting him in a trios team where he doesn't have as much pressure on him to be at the same peak that he needs to be, and he can just come in every now and again for like some big singles matches, but hide him a bit more in with a team with the best tag team arguably in the world. So
now I had made on Twitter, the pitch of, well, just do it right then and there. Like, there's a clear open door for that trio to face the trio's champions and have another piece of the puzzle. And they didn't go that route, but maybe they will someday soon.
Going back to the Chris Statlander retaining over Mercedes Moné match. Again, I said I missed everything up and even including then. I was pleasantly surprised to see that I was wrong about the idea of, well, they're probably just going to give it to Mercedes. And that was even more so a reason why I was just it doesn't make any sense why Ty Mello would beat Tekla, because Tekla makes sense to be a future challenger for Statlander. And lo and behold,
Yeah, and they had Statlander come out at the collision, and so it does give the indication that would be a future opponent for her. I thought this match was excellent, and I think that it arguably was just from a pure wrestling perspective, because all the other ones had the benefits of having some gimmicks attached to them. I thought that they did as well as they possibly could do. It was at the same level as their matches from last year, which I thought were excellent as well. The issue was that the crowd was so tired that it felt like a dead match, even though what they were doing was great. So you kind of have to. I think is one that I got a lot more enjoyment out of on a rewatch when I didn't have to. I didn't find as much of a an immediate enjoyment just watching live, just because the tiredness we've talked about and having too many matches. But overall, I thought this was a great match, and it's a great result having Statlander get the win, establishing herself even more. Only Mercedes' second defeat, and it continues the story that she can hold all these other belts, but she can't yet win the big one.
Yeah, I think the crowd definitely heard it to an extent, but it was better on a rewatch when I also wasn't struggling to stay awake. Mercedes, I think, should not challenge again until they're ready to put it on her. I think her next challenging effort should be the one where she wins. There's so much to do with her from now until then. She's got a Ring of Honor title. She's got a bunch of independent titles. But I definitely think keep her away from the AEW Women's World title until she's ready to win it, and let her focus on being the best TBS champion she could be and losing that to whomever she can make in the process.
And then, of course, the main event was Samoa Joe surprisingly beating Hangman Adam Page in that steel cage match, with Hook turning, Swerve Strickland coming out to reiterate his newfound friendship and everything with Page, try to help out a little bit. Eddie Kingston is heading his way towards becoming the first person that Samoa Joe beats on his title reign, it seems, because he's got his whole thing with Katsuyori Shibata, and then he doesn't want to talk about the Hook thing yet, so at some point we're going to get Hook versus Eddie Kingston as well. I'm assuming, probably Hobbs is next, and then Hook, and then Joe, or, might be Joe and then Hook or something. But I was very
Joe
shocked.
Is, what, 2 weeks? When's World's End? I'm not World's End. When's Winter's Coming?
I think 2 weeks from now is Winter's Coming. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be the Joe match. And then I imagine Hook will help Joe win. And then we'll get a Hook match at Winter's Coming. World's End.
Yeah, that can make sense.
Let's talk about this Hangman losing the title thing.
Yeah,
because wow, was there discourse, folks? There was so much talking about this through Dynamite. Really, I didn't hate this. I'll say right off the bat, like, yes, it was shocking. No, Joe's not the person I would have had beat Hangman, but I'm not a hypocrite, and I come on this podcast every week and bitch and complain for more sudden title changes and less predictability, and they gave me that in spades here. So I was super cool with Joe winning the title. I think that's awesome. I'm a little weirded out by the fact that, like, Swerve comes back and he's just sort of like reluctant besties or like cool badass friends with Hangman. I think it works. I'm imagining we're probably getting a 3-way at World's End, but I thought it was cool. I think it's totally fine that Hangman lost. I think modern wrestling fans struggle with the concept of the money's in the chase, and the guy makes the championship, but he doesn't always have to be the champion. Like, Hangman here is in the same position as Stone Cold in 98 or Sting in 98, where, like, they didn't hold these belts for a long time, but they did. When they win the belts, it's always a big moment. And I think if you ask the average person who doesn't know their beat for beat wrestling history, their image of Stone Cold as champion is just he wins the belt and then it's some kind of smushed together version of all of his reigns.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think, like, that's where we're at with Hangman, where yes, it sucks. And I know he beat the Death Riders and it feels like he wasn't the super focal point of the company during his reign as champion. But in reality, it's okay to have short-term reigns, and people will always feel like Hangman is the man when he has the belt, and whether he has the belt or not. And I just look at him more like Steve Austin. And I don't think that that's ever a bad comparison when you're talking about the career that Steve Austin had.
So I had issues with this main event, but not for the reasons that a lot of people had an issue with the main event, which is, as Rob pointed out, the Hangman losing the title. I don't have an issue with that really at all, because as like we get too bogged down and it's become too much of a commonplace in all companies where, like, someone wins a world title and then they have to have a 6-month, 8-month reign with the title for it to feel like, oh, then that's a good title reign. It's like, well, look at, like, Tiffany Stratton held the title for as long as she did. What the fuck did she do with it? It's like, you have to go with, like, the quality of the reign. I think the quality of the reign was good for this one. I think that, like, you have that huge moment of him taking the title from the Death Riders and bringing it back, and then he had a really good outings with, like, Moxley to defend the title again, and then with, like, Fletcher and helping, like, elevate Fletcher a little bit more with that match as well. So I think, like, the overall reign was good, and they've set things up now where he's still pursuing the title, and he's also got and Swerve is back as well, and he's also pursuing the title. So I don't know whether they're allied or whether it's just a case of they're both after the same goal, and they know that there's 4 other guys on the other side of it, so they might as well work together to make sure that they're not, like, overrun by the members of the Ops. And so, but they both just want to be the champion. And it sets up the possibility of just doing, because Tony Khan does like to bring back, like, matches that have happened in the past every now and again, and so they did do a triple threat match when Joe was champion the first time, so they could do that again. But the issues I had with the match were, first of all, interference in a steel cage match, which sucks.
It defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it's just like it's one of the worst tropes in professional wrestling that where the steel cage match, regardless of who it is, like, if you are going to do a steel cage match, you need to honor the. That'll be one of the main things if I run a promotion. It's like, if you're doing a steel cage match, you honor the fact that the steel cage match. Maybe you do it once every 5 years. You have some sort of interference because then it feels special. But if every single steel cage match ends in some kind of interference or getting in the cage, I just ask a question, like, why do cages have, like doors.
Yeah.
They don't need to have doors. You just lower the cage, and then why do they not have roofs? Like no one's trying. The idea is especially in like AEW ones where like obviously in WWE you have some cage matches that are escape rules, so that's fine. But like AEW, they've never done an escape rules cage match, so it's like they should just have roofs on them, like actually lock them in and make sure no one can get into the match. But that sucked. Secondly, like Hook in 2025, really. It's like he was good for a while when they were doing. I think and this might sound harsh, and maybe people will go against me. I'm sure Taz would go against me in particular saying that. I think Hook is AEW's Baron Corbin.
Now, what's funny is like I like Hook for the most part. I liked Baron Corbin for the most part, and but I know how you see Baron Corbin, so that's why that took me as like a.
He was someone that got over with like just a winning gimmick, like and doing the count thing, and same with Hook. Hook just won matches quickly, had a not like a personality, but not like a over the top personality, but it was like okay, it's like this brooding character kind of works, but then. As soon as you started to expose him to more and more stuff and had to have like actual feuds and stories, he just felt, this guy's, pretty blah, really. He's pretty bland. And so they've tried different things with him and nothing's really clicked. And now they've decided, okay, now we've got to turn him heel for the first time, really, and see what they do. And this is kind of, I don't say like his sink or swim moment, but it's kind of, this would be the opportunity to see where he kind of sits on the totem pole. I mean, I'd say like he's, like AEW's Baron Corbin. At least Baron Corbin was actually like pretty charismatic. Like Hook doesn't really have like Baron Corbin could cut a good promo, like Hook can't really. So, but you have to say this is his big chance now. If it doesn't work out, then he'll always be at a certain level. So, and I think that like if it doesn't work out, then I think if I were him, I would probably be looking to go to NXT at the earliest possible opportunity. And then the only other thing that I have an issue with is that I think this should have been Hobbs.
Yeah, but you've openly said that leading up to it.
It's not even a point of like because Joe's great and Joe's got such a legacy behind him, and so I'm totally cool with him being world champion because like at the end of the day he should have been world champion in WWE.
Absolutely,
like
it's insane that he didn't get that kind of fucking like one quick title reign or something. Come on,
And now he's getting his flowers in AEW, which I'm sure everybody that has followed Joe's career, because Joe's always had like pretty much short end of the stick for a lot of the time. Yeah, he had that great run in Ring of Honor, and he had a pretty non-eventful reign as TNA World Champion. But even in that period, he didn't even feel like the biggest thing on the show. Now he feels like not necessarily the biggest thing on the show, but he's getting his flowers now in AEW probably more than he ever got at any other point in his career. And so yeah, I'm happy for him to be world champion again. It feels like it's a good moment for him, but I just feel like, again, just always coming back to that same thing. It's 2025. Let's move on. Let's build up the next guy. What could this have meant to a Hobbs to have Joe as your mentor and Shibata as the mentor in your team, and he's the one that beats Hangman Page? Like, even if it's like only a short reign for Hobbs and they just drop it to either Strickland or Page after a month or two, it's like, wow, you really made Hobbs with this. Like, he's a world champion now, and he feels like a bigger deal off the back of it. So yeah, those are my issues. The issues were the finish being like this hackneyed steel cage interference ending, like Hook's like major role in it, and also the fact that they're telling the storyline where he was always part of the ops. But yet, they had that 6-man tag where he was fighting the ops, and that's always stupid when they do that stuff as well. It's like, it just doesn't make any sense. And also,
they did try to logic their way out of that and admit that's why Hook immediately tapped out to Joe during the 4-way No More Contenders match, because that was like a plan to get Joe back in there.
Right. So they didn't decide to put him in a submission hold like 2 minutes into the match to end it quickly rather than... just have it going on.
There's logic to committing crimes.
I'm still waiting for them to say that Trick Williams is the leader of Dark State, because they are going out of their fucking way to constantly have that motherfucker in some situation where he fights them, but he doesn't want to fight them.
Doing that? Really?
They're still teasing that every once in a while. Yep.
God,
And it's like, oh my gosh, shit or get off the pot. This dude's going to be out of NXT and you're going to still not,
for
you know,
real.
we'll talk about NXT in a bit, but
So that's kind of my
I
issues
agree
with
about
it,
the Hobbs thing. Like, as much as I love Samoa Joe as somebody who, like, yeah, I wish he would have been in WWE sooner. I wish he would have been a champion in WWE. He definitely deserves more credit across the board. And I like, to a certain extent, that there was a surprise here, because sometimes it is kind of cool to just be like, oh shit, okay, well, I don't know where they're going now, and now it's kind of interesting. I do kind of go like, I don't know if I would have necessarily taken the belt off of Paige to begin with, and if I would have, I don't know if I would have given it to Joe. And if you said you needed to give it to somebody on the ops, I probably would have said, let's give it to Hobbs. And then, like, you know, it's kind of like, we're at like at least like 4 stages where I would eventually get to saying, okay, well then maybe. And I guess it all depends on where they go from here, but I don't think it's going to be that he drops it back to Paige. And I don't think he's going to drop it to Swerve. I think that Joe's keeping it until Ospreay's back. And it's just
I
like,
think he's losing.
you know,
I mean, Max.
Hmm?
He's losing it to Max.
You think Joe drops it to Freeman?
Yeah, Max is gonna get his win back.
I mean, that's another option too.
Joe's the one that beat him, and he's gonna get it back.
See, I just think he's just losing it back to Hangman.
And he very well could. It could be
He very well could.
early as World's End, or it could be at Revolution, or Double or Nothing, or, you know. Joe didn't have like a year-long title reign before, so.
Yeah, I think there's a good possibility that we have like 3 or like I agree with you. I think Ospreay's winning the title at the next All In, but I think that there's a good chance we have at least 3 or 4 other world champions in between that point.
Could be.
Whether that's like Swerve.
I mean, especially if they wait until All In. Yeah.
Yeah, MJF. Yeah.
So I mean, that's the Full Gear review. It took a while to get to a Full Gear review, but the other stuff that's going on right now, the little hot tags. So I should probably switch to the hot tag graphic outside of this. Kayden Carter, or formerly Kayden Carter, Lacey Lane, is now on the AEW roster. Cool for her.
Yeah. Big fan of this. Big fan of people getting opportunities to exist outside of the WWE system. And I hope it works out for her.
Tegan Knox.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really care too much about this. I think that I don't think she's good enough to be in AEW.
God damn.
It's just a thing. Like you, the clues in the name. Like look at the adjective elite. Like that's actually one that actually works. So that's but look at the verb elite. It's
that present participle.
Like, you set a standard. There is a level to this, and if she's signed to be with like primarily Ring of Honor, then fine.
I was gonna say there's also Ring of Honor.
Yeah, if that's what her role is, then that's fine. But I just don't think that. Again, I've been proven wrong in the past. If she does prove me wrong, then that's great. Like Ty Mello when she signed, it's like, how's that going to work out? Like considering what she'd done in NXT, and then she just shows that she actually can do this stuff. But whatever was wrong in NXT was wrong in NXT, but it's right here. So maybe that's the difference. But I just don't think that she. You start to think of like. Surely there are other people in the independent circuits or that are doing good stuff that just haven't been brought in. I'm talking about the My World and Heian. I think they're really good wrestlers. I think they've got a lot of potential, and they don't have that WWE stigma attached to them. That's not even like on Lacey Lane's fault. However, it's just the perception, because you do start to go with. People always saying, like, we don't want AEW to just be another TNA that just takes stragglers from WWE and just puts them on the show. It's like, this one doesn't feel like a pack or even like a Soraya to a degree. Like, as like poorly thought out as her run was, like, okay, she has a bit more cachet about her. It's like really, like one half of a pretty underwhelming tag team in WWE. That's your next big signing.
I think if you have her for Ring of Honor, which they should, by the way, start specifying, because I think that would be really cool if you started seeing, well, no, this person is signed to Ring of Honor, because then you can temper expectations. I think it's great, because I think, like you said with Tay Mello, everybody deserves a chance to, make a name for themselves outside of whatever they were given in WWE. So I'm willing to see where it goes. I'm not saying she should challenge Mercedes Moné again, but I think she should get the opportunity to do something.
Yeah, I mean, if it's ultimately just, well, we want to bring her in because we kind of like her and we need another name. Yeah, we got to temper our expectations when it comes to that too. And most people don't win championships. Most people are not the main event on a regular basis or, anything along those lines. So if she gets to a chance where she does something like that, awesome. If she doesn't, I don't think that's worth being like, okay, well, we signed her with the idea that she was going to be the next big thing or something either. Sometimes you bring people in knowing that they've got a ceiling. And, she makes consistent money and stuff. Good for her. Any other AEW topics before we switch to WWE? At least as far as I can remember, I don't think there's
not really.
else.
Obviously we covered what's happened in the Continental Classic so far. It said all the other kind of the big results. I don't think there was any other big matches on the show. Just one thing about this Full Gear. Swerve looks really big.
Yeah, he got really big, huh?
He got really big.
He took some time away to get really big.
Yeah, he looks like, I would say twice the size he used to do, but
his arms do look close to twice the size, though. I mean,
it looks like he's wearing 2 more skins of Swerve on top of him. Yeah.
Swole Strickland? Like amazing.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's Swole Strickland merchandise.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's harder for him to swerve when he drives now, because he probably can't move as
the arms don't stretch the same way.
Yeah.
I think that's why he's teaming with Hangman, because Hangman's starting to drink again, and somebody's got to swerve when they drive.
Oh, but that's as well. He's got new entrance music.
Yeah, he's not doing the Nana dance entrance music anymore.
Well, Nana's still doing the dance, but they're doing it to a different theme.
It's not as good though.
No, I think it takes getting used to. I don't think it's one of those ones like Mina Shirakawa where they're just going to throw it out after 1 week. I think people will get used to it. It's just going to take a bit of time.
I think Swerve has more stroke.
Iconic.
I think Swerve has more stroke. If he wants to keep his new theme because he put work into it, he's going to keep it.
So he's not becoming Swole Strickland. He's becoming Swerve Strokeland.
I think if any 2 people on the roster have plenty of stroke, it would be Mina Shirakawa and Tony Storm.
What about Tony Storm? Yes. What about Jeff Jarrett?
Jeff Jarrett does have a good fair deal of stroke.
Eventually, this is going to turn into a really dark joke. I think.
Oh yeah, I was immediately playing Ric Flair in my head, but we're going to carry on with this.
There you go. Right. All right. Somebody was going to have to jump on that grenade. So let's go back and talk about some of the other WWE related things. We don't really need to talk about some of these things because some of it is spoiler stuff and whatever, but we got Monday Night Raw going back to, and some of that we already talked about on the predictions for Survivor Series and everything. But the Last Time Is Now tournament had 2 matches. Gunther defeated Carmelo Hayes. And then later on, Solo Sikoa was up against Penta. And Penta did was it DDT that he landed a little bit awkward? That was a Hurricanrana.
I think it was what was it, barricade to the ringside floor, Hurricanrana, and then immediately his arm was fucked.
Yeah, so they had to end that match just with referee stoppage. Solo Sikoa very clearly looking in the ring, being like, shit, what do I do? What do I do?
I felt bad. Like, the camera's zooming in on his face, and you can see all of this concern on his face.
Mm-hmm. Just, trying to figure out how do I stay in character, but panic at the same time. I do not buy whatsoever that the plan was for Solo Sikoa to win that match.
I heard Brian Alvarez say that. I'm sorry. And he might be right, but I don't see it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It makes as little sense as the whole Taimella beating Tekla thing. So, it might be a bad week for an observer.
As stupid as it is, I am like, well, at least Gunther versus Solo is a match no one's seen before. Yeah, which,
It happened on NXT, but it was like, I don't know, 5 years ago or something. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But like that, I'm, more interested in that match than just Penta loses to Gunther anyway. But you can't convince me that it was going to be Solo Sikoa versus Gunther. Unless they're planning on Gunther being more on the babyface side of things, which I would not anticipate will be the case, and I don't think was their plan. I just fully expect Penta was supposed to win. Solo is now in that spot because they put the bracket out there, and that this is the second injury that changes plans up a little bit, and it's ultimately going to end up with Gunther anyway. So, whether they planned on it being Jay or LA Knight against Gunther, they're probably going to get whatever match it was anyway. I don't think Sheamus was supposed to win. I don't think that Penta was supposed to be in the finals. And that sucks about Penta. They I don't know how long he's supposed to be out for, but he was also working injured. So sooner or later, that injury is going to rear its ugly head again.
Just get further and further away from the Lucha Brothers reunion.
Yeah, that sucks.
Which they were just sowing the seeds for in AAA. So, again, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm starting to think that, like, Triple H doesn't know they were a tag team. It's like there must be some rationalization for it. Like he saw two names for it. So like, oh, but this cool. We'll get these two luchadors in. It's like, they're brothers. What? Oh, right.
Somebody's around the writers' table, and they're like, we should probably do something about the Lucha Bros. And then Triple H is like, oh, we just had Rayo and Bravo in another match. And then it's like, no, the Lucha Bros, not the two Los Americanos. And he's like, oh, I gotcha. All right, so then who are AJ Styles and Dragon Lee going to fight? It's like, well, they're not the Lucha Bros. No?
We're talking about the two, the two founding members.
No, Ray and Dom are father and son. What are you talking?
Guys,
Humberto and Angel are like cousins or something.
And then it shows like one of those time lapses, like that Simpsons, one of my favorite Simpsons episodes, where it's like they're still trying to get him. When I say hello, Mr. Thompson, you smile and nod. It's like 20 minutes have gone by, or a couple hours, and then it's like, okay, Paul, when we say the Lucha Bros, we mean, and he's like, guys, it's been a while, but we can't bring back those conquistadors yet.
I think he's talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's talking to you, and he looks at Cruz del Toro and Walking Wild. Then Walking Wild's like, hey, I'm not even... It's back. It all starts falling apart. Yeah, everything else that happened on Raw is basically just Survivor Series stuff, so we already got into that.
We got
a tiny John Cena.
We got tiny John Cena.
Oh god, yeah, we didn't talk about John Cena, that they were calling him.
We got Tiny Stu.
I thought that was a good little touch. Not a little touch, you know what I mean. That was a good extra bonus to that, was having the Stu cameraman. And, the whole thing took me by surprise, because I was just like, oh, this is happening in 2025? Okay.
That was a Vince McMahon segment. That was
a lot of people said exactly that. And I'm like, it's cheap heat, and it's just like, I think it got the guy a booking, and I know that they had to do something, because for some reason they didn't book John Cena for one more Raw because they wanted to say that his last Raw was in the Garden. So, you know, they'll have a fun match at Survivor Series. It won't touch the match they had in Boston. And I thought this was a fun little throwback segment, and that's about all you can get.
Yes, emphasis on little.
Damn it.
Do you think you got a small fee for that?
Well, how much do you think Stu was paid? You think that was a little boost?
Was it to scale? Again, we got to stop before we get too deep in this, because this could go on for another fucking hour. Let's talk about Becky Lynch and two of the things that she's been involved in this week. We've got the comments going back and forth with Lacey Evans, and we got the Blacklist thing. So the simpler one to get into is the Lacey Evans one. She had said, I'm going to try to find the quote here. I start working with Lacey Evans right out of the gate after WrestleMania 35. God bless her. She wasn't, but for me to go from the main event of WrestleMania to somebody who hasn't done anything was terrible.
And she's fucking correct.
She is correct in many different ways. It's a little bit of a shot that you don't necessarily need to take, but at the same time, she is still, correct. And then Macy responded back, "Don't hate the player, hate the game. You're the only person who cried more. The only person who cried more than you was the baby I had on my hip while taking all the opportunities. If/when I come back, you will still do nothing but gently shake my hand and say how cute my little family is backstage."
Okay, I don't know why she's getting all bent out of shape about it. It's just true.
And she continued to post more stuff about it, saying somebody said and finish her off with the women's right. And then she said, I tried. She cried for 2 hours, then no sold. Then somebody said, stick to posting ass instead of chatting Becky. And she said, I'm a limitless lady, sweetheart. I can do both at the same time and still get in the kitchen and make Thanksgiving dinner, and then promoted her OnlyFans. All
right, look, that's a strong way to end it. Strong ending, But
a picture of her with her legs spread. Yeah.
I don't know why are you getting butthurt about that when it's it's true. You were literally doing nothing. You had done nothing in NXT. And by the way, that's not to say I don't like Lacey Evans. Check the history. I was all for Lacey being a big deal, but for Becky Lynch to go from the main event of WrestleMania with Ronda Rousey and a shoehorned Charlotte Flair to a shoehorned Lacey Evans feud where they put her on screen with Rollins, and the reactions were so bad that they have both said it nearly ruined their real life relationship. It just wasn't a good move. There was so many other women. You could have pivoted to Sasha. You could have pivoted to Bayley. Shayna Baszler could have been called up, I'm sure. Yeah, the roster was deep at the time, and Vince, by all accounts, just really liked Lacey Evans. So that's what we got.
Wasn't she fresh off her gimmick of walking out? Wasn't that her gimmick when she first came to the main roster? Was she just make her entrance and then just walk back?
Yeah.
She might have been one of those 4 people that they did that with.
No, remember because she was just a lady. She just come out, do the little queen wave, and walk to the back, and then was suddenly again
feuding for the world title.
Because she was so shoehorned in as the referee of the women's champions boyfriend's Universal title match against Baron Corbin, who, by the way, was also not very well received by anybody and hurting Rollins' run. That 2019 booking was just very strange.
And the other big thing coming out from that Bert Kreischer, I forget his name, thing was this discussion about somebody with a blacklist, that somebody would. And I was a little bit confused about the whole, like, how this is supposed to make any sense, because
exactly,
no, she had said, I'm not going to name names, but there was a guy on the main roster who was like, be careful, because one, he'll try to sleep with you. If he sleeps with you, then he'll blacklist you. If he tries to sleep with you and you don't sleep with him, he'll also blacklist you.
So this is just a person who likes manipulating women enough that they're going to try to get them to sleep with him. And if they don't, he'll get them reprimanded. And if they do, he'll still get them reprimanded just because he likes fucking with people, whomever this person may be.
Which is like terrible on all fronts for every aspect of that.
Yeah, like this sounds like the most disgusting human being.
Which then makes us go, okay, well then who is it? Let's try to, The
only thing that threw me through a loop is who on the main roster has enough. We use this word a lot in the past 20 minutes, but who has enough stroke that like they would even have the possibility of doing this?
Mm-hmm. And the implication is that it's somebody that's not there anymore. Because she would have said, that there is somebody on the main roster or something like that, as opposed to that there was somebody.
Even said it,
I don't think that she would have been like, there's this guy on the main roster right now and he's whatever. But she could have. But you gotta, as a, you're going to try to be a detective for this whole thing. You got to go like, okay, it's probably somebody who's not there anymore, and then who would be on the main roster, and then there is kind of an implication that it's some kind of a talent as opposed to like a producer type, but it could be a producer, and then who has the ability to blacklist people. So everybody, of course, is running all over the place, being like, it's this person, it's that person, it's that person, this has got to be this. Most of the people that I've seen people speculate on, I'm like, I can't imagine that being the case for multiple different reasons, not necessarily character, but just like, people are like, oh, it's Cena. Yeah, Cena? Really? Like, did that, your mind goes to that, like, during the tour that's going on now, that's
right,
what it was? Where, like, people are like, that's Randy Orton. I'm pretty sure that Randy Orton wouldn't have as many friends backstage right now and all that, and be revered in this kind of way and stuff, in the way that he is right now and still on the roster. And, it doesn't make sense to me. I, of course, obviously do not know. I was not there, but I can't really think of many people that this would fit, other than unless this was like about Laurinaitis.
I thought, like, people asked, Laurinaitis or Vince, and I'm like, she spoke pretty glowingly of Vince in her book. I don't think she would have went out of her way to do that. And I also don't think you would refer to Vince as there was once a main roster talent.
Yeah. That would be, like, you would just say it's Vince, or you would say like there was an executive, which also makes me think maybe it's not Laurinaitis then.
So, Dave Meltzer commented on this afterwards, like based on the information that was coming up there, and they said they were talking about a performer, so it was a wrestler. That's who Meltzer is saying that it is. He says he has like some idea about who it is, but he doesn't want to obviously incriminate anybody in case of like that being not being the case. But he is aware that it's a performer, not a like producer or like backstage professional.
So then that's already like, I don't know, is this like a Del Rio thing? Is this I don't know. I can't think of anybody that would necessarily fit the bill for me.
It's one of those things where we want to. I would say we don't want to attach it to anybody. We hope that this thing wouldn't exist in the first place. But if we have to, this thing, we're going to attach it to someone that we already think is a piece of shit.
Most likely, yeah, like because just the likelihood of it could be almost anybody that you could surprisingly say.
I mean, yeah, because it could be anybody, and because like you just don't know. I mean, who knew the stuff that came out about Drew Gulak until the stuff that came out of Drew Gulak? It's like you never know to a certain point. So yeah, I'd say we shouldn't speculate or even like throw out names of people that it could potentially be, because As I say, like, it's one of those things that if there's a lot of fuel to it, it will eventually come out properly. This feels like this is now the moment where you kind of lifted the lock that'd been held to it, and now it's just waiting for someone to just like open that door a little bit further and just wait and wait until it finally just gets bust open, and then this guy gets exposed. But I mean, these two are quite Lynch and Rollins are very kind of interesting in the fact that they are in this weird like situation where they are so pro WWE and they're so like soldiers of WWE, yet they are so also very candid about how much they hate the way they're booked sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Like they will just say, this was shit, this was bad, I hate this, like this didn't work. But then they'll just go, yeah, but we like this is our company and we're gonna do everything we can for it. So they're kind of like this weird, they're kind of like, in a way the honesty is really good. In a way it also means that they are probably the two people that are hated most by every single fan base imaginable, because you're hated by the people that don't like WWE because they're as loyal soldiers to WWE as possible, but they're probably also hated by a lot of people in WWE because they just talk shit on WWE all the time in these sort of interviews. So probably nobody likes them at this point. Like we always have like the Becky Hogan comparisons and stuff like that as well, and Seth being somewhat fragile now. But yeah, it's just kind of funny that they have this candidness about them, which is quite refreshing. But also, I still like don't think that that's endearing them to anybody.
Also, I'm looking at right now just for the curiosity's sake of 2016, because I'm kind of like that would be around the time frame. And if you rule out people that are still on the roster and you rule out people that are so low on the totem pole that it wouldn't make any sense, like the likelihood that who can get blacklisted by like Simon Gotch or Rich Swann or Sin Cara, or you know what I mean, then it really only paints a couple people into that spot. If this is the time frame we're talking about, it's basically Chris Jericho.
Well,
and then that becomes like, if Jericho's coming back, then I don't know, like out of the people that would be in the mix, it would be Jericho, Ambrose, Ziggler. Like, there's only a few names. I highly doubt that it's Bray Wyatt, and she would be talking about Bray Wyatt in that kind of context or something. But like, again, that's just looking at trying to figure this mystery out. But when they put something out there like that, it's it's somewhere down the line somebody will say something more. It could be almost anything.
In any case, I hope that it's not like it's not a person who can get booked anymore, and hopefully it's a problem of the past. Yeah.
So then we go to NXT, and pretty much we're starting to round this out. John Cena. We already talked about the NXT Gold Rush results prior with the spoilers and everything. So, the TNA Knockouts World Title changes hands and everything along those lines. But the only real thing else to talk about is John Cena's picks for the Iron Survivor Challenge for NXT Deadline. Are Miles Bourne had beaten Trick Williams to get that spot. Leon Slater from TNA, Joe Hendry, Dion Lennox, out of all the people, just picking one of the guys from Dark State, and Javon Evans. And then on the women's side, you got Sol Ruka, No Zarya, Lola Vice, Kalani Jordan, Jordan Grace, and Kendall Gray. I would be very curious to know if there actually was any kind of picks from John Cena himself, or if this was just strictly John Cena's going to read out the piece of paper that we already figured out. Like, these are the people we want, and we're just going to say that John Cena's picking it. Because, maybe he was like, oh, I really see something in Dion Lennox. I think you should give that kid a spot. Or maybe it was like, yeah, I'm a big fan of Kendall Gray, or, whatever. But most of our prediction stuff and breaking that down, we'll talk about when we get into the NXT Deadline predictions, which is like already pretty much happening next week or so.
I do want to mention real quick, though, that I was genuinely surprised by the picks.
Me too.
And it
Some of them,
felt like it felt like, okay, maybe he is
Influencing
actually
it a little
picking
bit.
them, because I like Dion Lennox. I've said that of all the Dark State people, he's the one that I'm like, yeah, if he sticks with it,
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna go far.
Yeah, he's a standout for sure.
I'm really impressed that they're giving him a shot. Hopefully, it all goes well. He did the little Joe Hendry thing, which I thought was funny, just as a visual. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where these guys go and how this match works out. I usually like the Iron Survivor Challenge, and it's one of the few gimmick matches created in the last 10 years.
It's a little convoluted for me when they start going, this person got pinned and that person's in the box and that person's now 2 minutes and then it's 30 seconds for the next person, but then that person's got pinned, so now that person comes out, and it reaches a point where I just go like, all right, I'm overloaded and let's just wait and see who wins. But it can be fun. And yeah, we'll break that more down next week. But the next thing is going to be the spoilers from SmackDown from tonight. So we already know what's happening there. And if you don't want to know, then earmuffs. But
which we also covered last week, by the way, but we'll cover it again.
Did we cover them by then?
Yeah.
I thought we didn't get a chance to because they recorded it last week. So we would have done the hot tags already.
Maybe I swear to God, we've talked about this already. I could be wrong. Go ahead.
We might have. I don't know for sure. Jey Uso beats Rusev to get into the quarterfinals. To get past the quarterfinals. The replacement for Sheamus is The Miz, and he loses to LA Knight. Charlotte Flair beats Asuka to win the advantage match for the War Games thing. We did talk about that. Apparently, Chelsea Green does have her championship celebration, and Jade Cargill comes out and ruins it, which means that we're still back into the I got nothing for Jade Cargill, I got nothing for the women's U.S. title. So even though we'll just, it's Tiffany Stratton versus Julia, well, now we switch the titles. Now it's Jade Cargill versus Chelsea Green. They need to insert some more people into that roster.
More importantly, we're back in the more people holding more titles at once.
Yeah.
It must happen.
And then the MFTs win that traditional Survivor Series elimination 5-on-5 tag team match. They get attacked by the Wyatt Six afterwards, and I believe it's Solo and Tala Tonga that are the survivors.
They should. I would be so okay with them just throwing Wyatt Six versus MFTs on the card in just a traditional Survivor Series elimination match. Just because
they said that's SmackDown.
Yeah, but not even like that's after what happened in the match on SmackDown. I think you could throw in at least one.
You can't do that on Survivor Series. A traditional Survivor Series tag team match.
Yeah. It's like having a Royal Rumble at the Royal Rumble. Yeah, I mean, it's not the ideal scenario whatsoever, but at least they're bringing it back in one faction. Maybe that can remind them that this exists. So that's what I got down for the hot tags. And, we're 2 hours into this episode. So next week, we do have all the, we're getting into the December stuff already. So before you know it, it's going to be beginning of the year, which I hate that. But next week, we do have NXT Deadline. The ROH show, I think, is happening next Friday as well.
Next Friday, yes.
So that'll be something that we talk about on the hot tags. We got to do that Darkcast with the titles that we would book. So that'll be coming up at some point soon. And then we roll along with the rest of the pay-per-views that are happening at the end of the year. Then somewhere in that mix, we're going to record our end of the year awards. So you'll have the AEW stuff and the WWE stuff, which I have fully just not been taking notes for, admittedly. So that's going to be difficult. And this might be one of those years where I'm like, I got nothing for this one. I don't really know.
The theme of this year across the board is going to be we're all watching less wrestling that doesn't excite us.
Yeah, we're all burned out from this kind of
we're
stuff.
watching wrestling we like. That might not reflect these awards.
There's good stuff. I don't remember a lot of it. There's bad stuff. I didn't see a lot of it. Or, whatever it might be. But we'll talk about that when we get into it. But In the meantime, make sure that you're showing some support all over the place. Make sure you hit the like buttons and the subscribe buttons and all that stuff on everything that is on anthonymango.com or amangotree.com. Pretty self-explanatory. Just go ahead and click around. Follow Robin Callum too.
Yep, follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. And check out what Callum's got going on.
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Weekmeister14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday where I rank the WWE Superstars based on their previous week performances. And then check out the Fantasy League, which will of course be impacted a lot by the results of Survivor Series. So follow that stuff along at www.fantasyleague.com or find it through Smark at the moment to see how our rosters are performing.
And as we always say, drop your comments below. Tell us what you think about Full Gear, about the Continental Classic, and all these other topics we talked about for the hot tags. And if there's something we forgot about, let us know about that too. And we'll try to leave some kind of comment or talk about it on Discord or whatever it might be. But adios for now. It's 7:30 in the bag, and we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.